Tokyo, Japan. My name is Gary Verheller, and I'll be your host for what we call the Substance of Living podcast. Today, we'll look at what we call life's lessons. And I hope this will provide you with some insight, maybe even some inspiration to life's challenges. This is episode 6, and it's about fear. Fear can be a motivator. But if fear is a motivator, it's usually a bad motivator, because it means that the person that is suffering the fear is usually a victim. And as a result, that would inhibit life, it would inhibit alternatives, it would inhibit creativity. Fear actually is a bad motivator. Now, there are two kinds of fear, and I take this from a book I read by a U.S. Navy SEAL. And the two types of fear are uncontrollable and controllable. Well, let's define that. What is an uncontrollable fear? An uncontrollable fear has many unknowns. So, to shift a controllable fear into an uncontrollable fear into a controllable fear, you need to reduce the number of unknowns. Let me give you a real-life example. I have a crazy, psychotic fear of snakes, even today. Well, when I read about uncontrollable, controllable fear, I thought, well, I should learn more about snakes then. So I started to reduce the number of unknowns, because I knew nothing about snakes other than they had no feet and they were dangerous. Certainly a limited amount of information. So I got a book on snakes and I started reading up on snakes. I went to YouTube and I got information about snakes, and that was all good. I even went to the zoo and talked to the person in charge of reptiles. And I quickly learned that snakes are part of nature's balance. For example, in Tokyo, the snakes that are here many times are living by the rivers and they eat toads. They also eat rats, and cats eat the snakes. So it's part of a balance. Now, do I still have a fear of snakes? Yes. And when I see a snake now, more times than not, I can identify it as either a venomous or non-venomous snake and just leave it alone. So my suggestion is look at your fears. Your fears are telling you something. And please understand, I'm not saying you can eliminate the emotion. No. Accept it for what it is, and you can learn from it. Many times fear is very logical because you're fearing for your life, like my fear of snakes. To make it more controllable, reduce the number of unknowns. Thanks. Thank you for joining us today for the Substance of Living podcast. If you'd be kind enough to consider subscribing, you can contact us through Spotify or Apple Podcasts or connect on Twitter. Join us again next time for what I hope will help you navigate life.